Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is, believe it or not, this is episode 3 of the Growth Grit Grind podcast. And, when I started the podcast, I specifically said in the first episode, and the idea behind it was I wanted to create a podcast that could challenge and inspire, entrepreneurs and business owners. We're all somewhat, if we build these groups, we're kind of in this together, and we can take things from other people and learn from, their mistakes or their positive choices. And we learn from a little bit of everything, back and forth. So it's one of those things that I want to have people on here from all types of industries and verticals and, just different places of life. So today we had, Bledsoe Hydromulch on here last time, which is, a service-based, industry. And she got to talk us through what she did and how she got started and all those things. And now we're completely switching gears, something not even in line with that at all. So I have Jenn Kaiser with me today. She is the owner of the Kaiser Center for the Performing Arts in Murphy, Texas. Or as most people like to say, it's just KCPA is like, I guess everybody kind of shortens it, KCPA. Yes. And it's funny, Jenn, because when I tell people, I'm like, oh, the dance studio, or I reference something with you guys, and they go, who? And I'm like, and I will say the whole name, and they will go, where's that? And I'll go, well, it's KCPA. Oh, okay. The big, huge studio down in, yeah, that one. Oh, okay. All right. But they don't connect the dots. But everybody, this is Jenn Kaiser from KCPA. Welcome, and thank you for taking some time out of your day to be on with me. And I'm looking forward to hearing about your fantastic, just smooth sailing journey to opening your, as we all know, is typically never the case, right?
No.
We have a similar format on all the podcasts. Some of them may, split off in different directions depending on how the conversation goes, but we'll try to stay on track as much as we can, and wherever, just like our business journeys, wherever it sends us is where we'll end up.
Absolutely.
But, tell everyone a little bit about briefly, if you had to describe, what KCPA is in, just a short sentence. If you were telling someone that had no idea what KCPA was, what is KCPA? What did you build?
So KCPA is a dance studio where we really want to create a welcoming and encouraging environment for dancers from ages 2 to adult. We have ballet, tap, jazz, hip hop, contemporary musical theater. And we're really here just to service anybody who wants to learn how to dance, have fun with it, and at whatever level they want to take it to. So if they want to have fun with it, just come in, feel the joy, or if they want to take it to the next level and compete, we're here for that as well.
That's awesome. And I think that's very awesome that you guys, you have, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a dance studio expert, but you have some of them that really build their programs around that competition and competing only, and they're about the trophies, and they're about, and which, hey, I think is great. I've been in your studio, I've seen the trophies, and they're shiny and they're really cool, but then you also have some of yours that I don't really know if that's exactly what I want to do. I really want to just have fun, and they realize that that's maybe not the place for them somewhere else. And so I think it's neat that you guys have built that environment that it's really, if you're just coming here to have a hobby or to do something fun or different than, maybe band or karate or like whatever it is, like you want to try something different, like we have something for you.
Well, right. And dance, I'm a big believer that dance services pretty much every outlet of life, right? So learning how to move and how to use your body helps athletes, it helps musicians, it helps really anybody who moves, which is everyone. So
Yeah. The older I get,
of...
the more difficult it becomes in the mornings, it seems.
Yes. Yeah. And we could, dance could help you with that, but
I may have to take you up on that after that comment. So
we do have adult hip hop classes. We might have to get you in there.
Hey, that'd be good footage for sure. That would be entertaining for some, maybe not for me. Well, Jenn, tell us a little bit about, like, when did you grow up as a kid wanting to be an entrepreneur? Did you have business owner aspirations in your, college, mid-20s? Like, walk us through that. When did you have this dream and kind of the idea? And that may be two different moments. You may have, I know, like for me, I had the dream for a long time, but I had the idea came to me separately and way down the road. But what was that like for you? When did you have, like, you started dreaming of wanting to do something like this? And when did really the business idea come to you?
So I remember a long time ago when I was a kid, I remember my dance teacher saying, does anybody want to dance for a living? And that was the kind of moment that I rose my hand. And that was like the day, I don't even remember how old I was, maybe 8, maybe 12. I don't know. I never really considered owning a studio because I loved teaching. And I really started loving performing. I went to college for performance, realized that I had a gift for teaching. So graduated with my bachelor's, ended up getting a master's to get better and to know more about teaching. Ran a studio with my sister, which was a great opportunity because I got to learn so much from her. And then COVID hit. And so there was, COVID hurt a lot, it was hard on a lot of businesses,
For
right?
sure.
So, especially service industry businesses. So, that studio kind of quietly shut doors, and there was an opportunity there. And honestly, the moment was when I was driving down Murphy Road and I saw that Tuesday morning had closed and there was a for lease sign on the window. And I just sent an email kind of laughing at myself to see how much it would cost, knowing it would be really expensive.
Sure.
And then that was like, okay, maybe I want to do this. It was not I'd never had the dream of like being a business owner. My intention was to just facilitate dancing and
Yeah.
healthy dancing and happy dancing. And that's just taken me along on the journey and it's led me here. So it was really that moment driving by the open space where I was like, okay, maybe I can do this.
Yeah, no, I think, did you, and I know I've heard this from other people before, and you may have not have experienced it. Did you drive past there, like when the Tuesday morning was there, and we're like, that would be an awesome location for a dance studio? Did you ever even have that thought, or was it when you saw them close?
I mean, I think I would drive by any place. I think a lot
That's
of
it.
dancers go anywhere and go, this would be a great studio. Like if
Sure.
there's ever a space where it's like, I could dance here. I think that's just in our blood as a
Yeah.
dancer. So probably. But it wasn't, I don't think we live on the Wiley side. So
Yeah.
I never really drove that street very often. It just happened to be that day and, it just happened.
That's, I mean, that's, and you hear both sides. I mean, I think that's, you can't change your story. Your story is what your story is. And I've heard both sides. I mean, people
Nope.
that looked at a location for years, and were like, oh my gosh, that would be the perfect, and either it never happened or it did, by fate, something happened and it opened up. But then you hear the opposite, it's like, no, like I never wanted to be a business owner. I literally, it kind of fell in my lap and it helped me decide, or made me decide that that's what I was going to go do.
Well, and the thing is it didn't really. So that it's actually a funny story. So I sent the email saying, "Hey, how much does this cost?" Fully thinking, I mean, I'm a dancer, right? So like dance is not the industry where you're going to expect to get paid a lot of money, right? Like that
Right.
this is a huge storefront, right? So I sent the email full well knowing it was going to be a high, high rent value. So she sends me back an email that says, "Hey, this is what the numbers are." And I laughed and I deleted the email,
Oh my
deleted
gosh.
it. And then a week later, so I really have to give it to the leasing agent because she is the whole reason why KCPA is there, to be quite frank. She sent me an email a week later and said, "Hey, are you still interested? The landlord is willing to be flexible." So I'm here at the house and my husband's cooking dinner. I don't cook at all. And I laugh at my phone and he's like, "What are you looking at?" And I said, well, I kind of sent an email to this space to see how much it would be. And this was the price. So I deleted the email and I said, but now they're saying they're flexible. And my husband now, who's a civil engineer, very much into, building industry, whatever, he's like, how flexible? And
Like
that's
half,
when
a fourth.
I know, right? If only, right? I mean, we came in at a good time, so it was
Right.
it was decent for the square footage, but it's a 9,000 square foot facility.
Yeah,
So
it's big.
anything at 9,000 square feet is going to be, quite a
You
bit.
multiply
So
9,000 by any number and it's not cheap.
by one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. So and that's kind of when the doors opened and we're like, okay, I really just said to myself, "Hey God, if at any point the doors need to be closed, slam them in my face and we will walk on by.
Yeah.
But if this is supposed to be, keep on opening those doors and we'll do what we're led to do."
Yeah, that's awesome. What did you run into? Kind of our next step is really kind of your, I guess, first steps to launch and kind of what your launch path looked like. But you guys had a lengthy construction process. So, I mean, really before I guess we walk into what your launch looked like and you know, kind of how you decided to go to market with a business plan and market and advertise, like all those things, what did the initial like things that people don't understand? I think that when they look at opening something that is going to require COs and construction and a lot of construction. They don't think about some of the smallest things. I mean, everyone thinks of the big things like I got to hire a GC and that sounds easy. But maybe walk us through some of those things. What were some of y'all's struggles during that period? You know, you secured the space, you have the lease, and now it's time to like, we want to build it, but we also need to build as fast as we can because we're spending money every day and we're not making anything. So what did that look like? Walk us through a couple of those, maybe some of your best or worst case stories.
So we got the lease, and one of the biggest hitches in our giddy up is zoning.
Yeah,
Um, and what people don't understand, you know, especially from my perspective, right? I'm just an artist wanting to run a dance studio, right?
yeah,
So we don't understand the back end of city planning. Okay. Now, fortunately for me, I have the pleasure of having a husband who's a civil engineer and understands the land of city planning and all that kind of stuff. So
sure,
the problem was that our building was not zoned for a dance studio. And so we could not start construction on our business until it was approved. The zoning was approved for it to be a dance studio. And in Murphy, they had certain, I can't really quite remember, but they only had certain areas that were like industrial buildings that were zoned for dance studios, but not the major storefronts.
sure.
So the problem with that is you have to present in front of the planning and zoning board. And then after that, you have to present in front of the council. Well, they only meet once a month, and you can
Yeah.
only meet the planning and zoning 1 month, and then you have to go meet the council. If you're approved by planning and zoning, you have to wait another month to go meet the council.
So
So,
you're already at a minimum from the get go. You're already at a minimum of like, I'm, you know, depending on what you negotiated, right? But I'm already paying probably 3 months rent already, and we
yep,
haven't touched a doorknob on the
nope,
space.
correct. So that was actually a really fun experience looking
Yeah.
back. It was we had to learn a lot about our business, and it really forced us to develop a strong business plan, strong branding, because we had to present it in front of the city planners, and we had to sell it in a way that they would like welcome us with open arms and say, of course, yes, we want you in our city. So, you know, like I said, Jason has a background. He was on a PNC board and he was on council. So he's preparing me and we're preparing together on what to present
Like
in
a
front of these
deposition. Like
people.
he's getting ready
It
for like,
is. It
it
is.
really is.
Yeah. And so we had to, you know, it forced me as an artist to really get into the nitty gritty of the business ownership side.
Yeah.
Because when we entrepreneurs like me who start as a passion project or it's a hobby, right? It starts as a hobby, then we turn our hobby into a career, then we turn our hobby into a business.
Yeah.
Now, there's different things that happen in those stages, and so it really forced me to become the business person to support the hobby
Yeah.
and really understand what my mission, vision, values, the buildup of our studio, what our, all that kind of stuff. Because I don't think a lot of people who are in the hobby industry, right? Like, and I don't mean to call it a hobby, but,
It is. I mean,
are in
yeah,
this,
I get what you're saying.
yeah, we don't think about that, right? Like, I want to open a dance studio and I want to teach kids how to dance. Well, you have to have culture, branding, all these kinds of things that you don't
Yeah.
think about. And having to present in front of a PNC and have a clear message, all that kind of stuff, it really forced me into that. And I kind
Yeah.
of wish other business owners would have that opportunity, right? Like, and some people do, because when you apply for a loan, you kind of have to do that too.
Right.
But I feel like business owners should treat their situation like that, where they have to have that full understanding of what they want the full picture of their business.
Yeah. No, you're presenting it in front of people, regardless of if it's loan or it's city council or P&Z. I mean, you're presenting your business in front of, and to be quite honest, you're preparing yourself to present it to the community, because
Yes.
after all of them, like if you sell them, you sell 4 people or 6 or how many ever are there, and then you have to sell the loan guy or the underwriter. Like that's just a handful of people. Now it's time. If I get past them, now I have to present the same case to hundreds of thousands of people and hope that they see the same vision. And
Yep.
most of us we're very passionate about what we do, and we see the vision, and we see sometimes the back end of what we do, of like, this is the business, but like our business, and I know y'all's too, we really go beyond the walls of our business. Like I know you guys do things in the community, we of course do things in the community, and people don't really get to see that because it's never really for that purpose. But no one sees and from time to time I do make a post. I actually made one last night, but it's like no one really sees the background of sometimes what goes into. They see the smiles and they see the
Right.
welcome and so excited, and that they don't see the other stuff. And so for them to be able to understand, that's what I hope this podcast does for some people, is that not to scare people away from it, but being properly prepared for what goes into, whether it's a service based, retail based, like I don't care what it is, you're going to face these things where Jenn is telling you, everyone that's listening, you should. And if you don't, maybe make yourself go through that. Maybe make yourself
Yeah.
sit back and, what if I had to present this case for a loan, or I needed to present this case for a rezoning, or, I have to know what we are and who we are to be able to present that to someone else. Because if you don't have that ready, kind of the next step we're going to walk into of launch path and, going to market, like you're going to struggle because you don't know
Yes.
what your voice is. You don't know what your brand looks like. You have no idea. And some of those things, don't get me wrong, those things do evolve. I mean, as your business continues to grow and you add staff members, different things like that, I mean, some of those things do tweak and change. I don't think you ever really get away from what your core values were from day one, but they kind of evolve a bit, and you
Yeah.
encompass more and more people in that, and you learn even from them, and you start to see and glean from the people around you that this is also a part of our core values, and it kind of just gets
Right.
added, that it happens.
Yes.
So what
Well,
was,
and I,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, and I was going to say, like, for people like me, and this is one of my biggest things, is if you are an artist or a hobbyist or whatever, turning it into a business, one of the biggest questions before I even started my business, and it was my mother-in-law that asked me, and she said, "Are you willing to be out of the business to run the business?" And that was a big thing because anybody who's opening a business because they have a passion for something, they have to understand that they are no longer providing directly providing the service. They are now the facilitators of the service.
Yeah.
So before anything gets built, bought, numbers flashed, like you have to understand that you are running the business and understand that you're ready for that, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't you're not going to be I'm not I don't directly work with the kids. I work with the teachers, right?
Right.
And that I think is a big thing that people who are like me, who are going from hobby or something like that and trying to make a business out of it, you have to understand that before
Yeah.
anything else.
No, that's key. I think you hit the nail on the head, and I mean, it's something we dealt with a bit when we went to look at adding people to our ads team, and it was I had to have that moment. And even working with the editors now is like, and we talked about that before we even started the podcast for a second, you have the initial moment of control issue, and it really wasn't a control issue for me. It was a quality issue, and it was how is this going to translate back to my clients and the people that I support? Because that was the kind of heart of why we ever even started, is like, we want to genuinely be like an extension of some people's businesses, like that they don't really have to worry about it that much. We have our conversations, but it was knowing that those are areas that I just cannot maintain control of. I can provide oversight and oversee the
Yep.
process and make sure that the quality is there and make the tweaks that need to be made. But at the end of the day, like, I think you have to be, if you're ever going to grow, if you're going to be a solopreneur, is I guess the best word, if that's your gig, then, and that's your lane, and you have maybe a small monetary target that you're going after, I think it's fine, and you can do what you want. But if from day one you have the aspirations of like, no, 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 I want to build something, I think you
Yep.
have to go into it knowing that your task may change over time. Like day one, your task may look different than day 365 because you've added
Yes.
people and pieces, but you have to know from the very beginning and have somewhat of a clear cut path of, exactly what you said. I work with the staff, and then the staff works with the kiddos. And obviously you have interaction with the kiddos, things like that. They know who
Yep.
you are, and the parents do. You have more interaction probably with parents than you do with kiddos, right? Maybe.
Mhm.
But that's just how that process works. Is, they talk about, I've heard it 100 times, you build your people and your people build the business, and I think
Yep.
and it works both ways. I think a business owner still has to be involved and have you're the train conductor, kind of, that you have the whole train behind you, and sometimes it feels like you pulling it without an engine. But it's that's just the way it goes. But I think that there's, that's our job. We're kind of the visionaries
Right.
or the front runners, the leaders that are supposed to. But then as people fall in line, and I don't mean that negatively, that sounds like you've got like minions behind you, but
No.
realistically, most people are looking for that leader to lead. And then you start having kind of the cream of the crop kind of rise up too. And then you have other leaders within the organization
Yep.
that kind of, they just rise up. Like you're not going
Yep.
to be able to ignore that that's their role.
Yeah.
And just having that foresight from the very beginning to know this is where we're headed and this is what I need to be prepared for. At some point, that switch is going to flip to where I go from the wearer of every hat to the wearer of probably still quite a few, but certain hats have to be delegated to certain people
Right.
because it's what they were built for. And it's what I brought them on for.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
love
And
that.
that's definitely something that I see in our business too, is
Yeah.
these,
And it's
if you
apparent.
allow
I mean,
them.
I've been in your business, or in your location enough to see that you see the different hats, and I guess someone
Hmm.
from my perspective, not that I'm some grand wizard, but I pay attention to things, and you see certain people. I've walked in businesses before where I see someone just by interacting with them and go, this person is a phenomenal people person. This person has an awful personality. They would be, but they're a great, but they're an excellent executor. Like they're
Right.
such a coordinator, but they're just not forward facing. Like they need to be somewhere else, not, and you see that in yours. You walk in and you meet different people and you interact with different people, and you're like, this is like clearly the personality, everything. Like it's huge. And we used to do that from my construction days. We hired more on personality than we hired on really anything else. Like skill
Right.
sets can sometimes be a negative thing. Like we would have some that we
Yep.
would hire based on skill set, and that was a problem because they thought they knew everything and they couldn't be taught anything. But if we hired for the personality, for us, it's like that came first. We can teach everything else. But if they don't have the right personality that people want to interact with and like them, then it was going to be a
Right.
challenge. And so and you've clearly done that. You've clearly done that with, meeting some of the people there. Like, some of them, every time I see them, they're just like, DJ, they're sweet.
Yeah. Well, and when I hired our staff, you're supposed to have your what position everybody is in, right? And so we didn't really put anybody in leadership because when we first opened, I wanted them to kind of fit into their own lane. Like I
Yeah.
wanted our staff to shine where they did their best. And they've
Mm-hmm.
done that, I've gotten to see some of my teachers just become great with kiddos. And then, my office administrators, I've got my front facing
Yeah.
one who's amazing. And I'm like, hey, Mama Sabrina, I need you to handle this friend of ours. And then, I have other office admin who get stuff done. And you're
Yeah.
like, you're my person. When I need
Yes.
something done in 20 minutes, you're the one I go to.
Yes, absolutely. And they will kill it.
Get it. Yeah. And
You
they'll
don't
get
even
it
have
done
to
in
think about it.
15.
Yeah.
No,
You don't even have to
it's
worry about
amazing.
it. I guess fast forwarding a little bit, and I know sometimes these things change and we can even kind of walk through that, but what did the launch path look like? I mean, you mentioned kind of the business, you were kind of not forcing a business plan. I know you guys were already working on that, but when you're talking about P&Z and having to present that to them and then to city council, I mean, what did that look like from, day one of, we had to build this business plan, we're working on the logos, we're doing these different things, but what was out of the gate? Like we're kind of past construction, or and I know y'all were working on construction literally up until the day kind of you opened the doors, maybe even a
Hmm.
few after.
Yep.
But what did that look like? What was your plan from day one to go, this is how I'm going to get our first 10 kiddos, like this is how we're going to have people walk in the door? What did that look like for y'all?
Well, fortunately for us, we had a little bit of a following.
Yeah.
So, our teachers and myself, we had a little bit of a following. So that was the start. My biggest thing was branding and getting our message out. I have become such a branding nerd, and you can kind of tell from our logo to our mascot. Like Thanks to Stephanie Powell and Jessica Edwards who helped me with those, and having, good conversations with them and just really, so the biggest thing for us was, we had to create a dance experience without a building for a while. So how do
Yeah.
you do that, right? How do you create something that's a service-based physical experience? We had just gone through COVID, so Zoom, everyone is zoomed out. We
Yeah.
cannot do anything virtual because, that's done. Everyone's been there, done that, over it. Um, and so we looked into areas where we could provide a service at a short term, you know, place. And so we went to the local hotel. There's a hotel down the road, and they let us use one of their rooms. And then the city of Murphy was actually very gracious, and they allowed us to use their rec center. And so we would do a couple of pop-in classes, like trial classes, free trial classes where the little kids could come. We did start off with a competitive program. It was a small team then. And so they wanted to get started. So we were supposed to open like July, August of 2021.
Hmm.
And we did not open until October 11th. So the hard part is when you're dealing with competitive kids, they have to start preparing.
Right.
And you need space for that. So we used, like I said, the hotel, and then we used the City of Murphy Rec Center. They allowed us to use their facility, and we were able to start rehearsals for those kiddos who needed to start.
Sure.
And then we just really promoted. I kept telling my GC, I was like, okay, October has to be. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
We have to start like at least in the fall. Like we cannot wait till the winter.
Right.
And so we got done. Now, what we did do is we would do community events. We did meet and greets in Wiley. We did meet and greets in Murphy. Like I said, we would do pop-up classes where they would get to come and take classes for free so they could see our product, meet our teachers. What was really fun is in June, so June 2021, I wanted to have, we host a thing called Maximum Velocity, which is a dance intensive for competitive kids. And I wanted to go ahead and get that going. And so I went to, what's right down the road? I'm brain farting. Dallas. Hello, help me out here. Um,
Dallas.
this TV show. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm
Oh,
brain
South
farting.
Fork Ranch. South
South
Fork Ranch.
Fork.
There you
Okay,
go.
thank you. I
You
had
said
it in my
Dallas.
head
You
2 minutes
said
ago.
Dallas.
I
Something in
know.
the city. I was like Fort
No,
Worth.
the TV show. Okay,
Yes,
so
South Fork Ranch.
we have South Fork Ranch like pretty much walking distance, right?
Yeah.
So I went out to them, and I was like, "Hey, do you guys have ballrooms I could rent?" And they're like, "Of course we do." So we ended up hosting our first Maximum Velocity Dance Intensive at South Fork Ranch in June, and it was so fun and it was so cool, and they were so kind. It's a
That's
really
awesome.
great venue. And so the kids I think had a lot of fun. But what was cool about it is it introduced our teachers to them, right? So they got to meet our staff that I had been collecting over the past few
Yeah.
months to start with us, and that was kind of cool how they got to meet those. And then for our kids who are younger, they got to meet those teachers during our pop-ups at the hotel that we would do. We would do them like once every 2 weeks, and that would get them to introduce us. We would do just about every community vendor event we could just to be
Yeah.
seen. And then, of course,
Branding.
social media. Yeah, branding. I'm telling you, like, have your branding. I can't tell you how much. In fact, somebody came up to me like last year and was like, "Jenn, your branding is so good. I went to Germany and I went to this place called Kaiser and the logo was the same." I was like, but here's
Wow.
the thing. Kaiser means emperor in
Oh,
German.
okay.
Kaiser
Okay.
means
Okay.
king.
Gotcha.
So that's why we went with the crown. So
Yeah.
you kind of need to make
But did you
sense
send
with
them
your
a cease
branding.
and desist letter? No, we just decided
Don't think I can do that.
no, but you mentioned some stuff that's really important there, and I think that there's a lot that can be unpacked there, and that entrepreneurs, especially kind of in their launch phase, business owners in their launch phase, can take from that. And the number one thing I heard was just you didn't sit on the sidelines while it was time, because I think that you have business owners that are like, well, you absolutely could have fallen into the trap of, well, I don't have a location. There's not anything that I can do yet. Maybe I'll just work on building a little bit of social media. Maybe even would have thought of like vendor fairs and things like that. But like you taking it to that next level of going, no, like if I could find a space to rent or use for now where I can get some kiddos in there, it gives me the ability to get some photos and like just, for that social media, it gives me the ability to get a groundwork built. Obviously the kiddos that were showing up at the hotel or wherever else were not going to be enough to fund the rent of this
Mm-mm.
big facility, but it was like the starting point. You would have been doing that square one in October with 0 kids and then trying to
Right.
staff, and like it just would have been such a challenge. But to have the kind of foresight, again, I keep using that word, but like you thought forward enough to go, we could start doing things now. Like yes, we want to be in our facility, but like we could go ahead and start now of getting a name and a reputation and have kind of our, you can call them founders or whatever you want to call it, but like your initial core of not only
Yes.
instructors, teachers, but of these kiddos and parents that become your like most loyal of loyal, that you're
Right.
getting that kind of shout out and exposure from them and their community as well. And so, I mean,
Right.
I think that I see that entrepreneurs have this kind of idea or this business plan or this, how they have this vision of how everything's going to go, but they sit on the sidelines and they become, you can call them entrepreneurs or whatever you want to call them. I think that's Mark Cuban's famous word, but like that's what they become because they're wanting and waiting, for it to
Right.
happen for them instead of finding a plan of attack that could actually be implemented now. Like all the excuses of time and money and all these different things, like there's ways to make it happen. You just have to sometimes sit back and be creative.
Well, and that wasn't something that I just did on my own. I'm not
Yeah.
this like crazy risk-taking,
Yeah.
jump
Yeah.
through any hoop. Like the biggest thing that got me through that is your networking and your personal circle, right?
Yeah.
Like so I see you in the community with all your different networking, groups. But, I have a really great dance networking group called the Inner Circle, and they really walked me through everything that, every time I needed to pivot, they're going, okay, well, maybe we do this. Maybe, having
Yeah.
a support system that is, um, industry specific,
Yeah.
right? So like I have my networking group that's dance specific, but then having your networking group that's more community based specific.
Sure.
And then also too, I call it my personal board of directors.
Yeah.
These are the people that I trust, that I go to when I have like, hey, what if I did this? Or what if I did that? And they're like my friends. They are the people who have watched me grow. Of course, my mom, my husband,
Sure.
but I call it the personal board of directors. But ultimately, like you use your resources, use the people that have come before you.
Yeah.
Don't diminish the people that have already figured it out. Like go to
Right.
them, find the place you can go, because that was really what helped me in that first phase, because they're like, well, you can do this and you can do that. And these are all the different things that you can do to kick your business off.
Yeah.
Um, and it really is about exposing your business to the community.
Yeah.
Leading when you're opening up, you really need to lead, like tease the community about how great this is. Like show
Right.
teasers, right? When we signed the lease, we showed like this video of the building and like showed like different plans. I still do it to this day. A couple weeks ago, I posted a picture of this large piece of graph paper of like the building. That was when we were trying to first figure out the rooms. Like I still tell people like what it looked like at the beginning,
Yeah.
let your community be a part of the build, right?
Sure.
Like, and that's because it wasn't just me by myself. I'm not that brave. Um, you
And I
know,
don't know that
like
we all, I think we're a lot of your entrepreneurs and they become those, visionaries, things like that. But I think sometimes it's can be to their detriment too, is I think that
yeah,
we think we need to do it or we have all the ideas or all the plans. But I think the faster that you learn that, I think you said another thing key there was like you have your kind of industry specific voices of reason that have been there, done that, and that can see it from an angle of knowledge. But then you have your other side that can be close family, your friends. I like personal board of directors. I may steal that. I think it's a neat perspective because you have people that they're looking from, and I like to use the term lens, and it's not because I use cameras all the time. It maybe is, I don't know, but they're looking at it from a different lens.
yeah,
Whereas we're looking at it maybe under a microscopic lens that's super zoomed in and laser focused on this end goal, where they're looking at it through like a wide angle. and they're looking at everything coming from the left and right and up and down, and they just see things differently. They're maybe not involved in the business every day. They're maybe not a business owner or entrepreneur, or any of those things. They could just be your mom, like you said,
Right.
and they are just looking at things from a different perspective. And even if their advice is not always, perfect or exactly the advice you needed, or sometimes it's just them going, no, I just don't like the
That.
way that looks, and I don't like the way it
Yes.
sounds. It doesn't sound good. I don't think it's going to work out. And it can cause us to pause long enough to go, you're right,
Yep.
man, I was going to make some mistakes there. Like, and I think it just gives us that pause moment sometimes of, oh, well, because me, and I'm not every business owner or entrepreneur is, but I am one of those that, like, I have an idea and I'm like, go. Like, just
Right.
because I don't want there to be delay, and I don't want, like, the
Nope.
longer I wait, the more it won't get done. And I just go. But there are those moments that Laura is probably my closest board of directors, my wife, and I'm like, hey, thinking about this, thinking about that. And she will, well, what if it was this, or what if it was that, or do you really think that that would be beneficial to you or your clients, or, and we do. And I go, perfect. And I sit back and I'm able to bounce off of her. And it's usually a pretty quick thought, turnaround time. And that's usually what I'm
Right.
like, tell me yes or no, tell me yes or no, because
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. And I think that some of us fall into that trap a little bit, but no, I completely agree with you. Having just that support group, I think industry specific is smart. I think having people, or even outside of the industry, are equally as smart,
Hmm.
because they just see things
Yes.
differently. See things
Well,
differently for
yes.
sure. What were
Yeah.
your, kind of fast forwarding a little bit, going maybe to the end of your first year or going into year two, I mean, what were the biggest challenges that you faced during that time? Because it's just a different time. Launching is totally different than kind of scaling and growth. And, so what challenges would you say, if you had to pick one or two, and you could probably run through 30 of them, as we all usually can, but what were your top challenges that you really first faced in that first year or two? And I guess pivot that by, like, how did you overcome those, or possibly how you still overcoming them?
So some of the challenges, well, we did have some issues with our, general contractor. I feel
Yeah.
like every entrepreneur you talk to, that seems to be kind of the norm.
Good old
And
GCs.
yeah, I wish it was different, but so we did come into some issues with that. Dance studios are kind of hard to build, right?
Sure.
So like our flooring has a specific way to be built, and unless you have a contractor that is, seasoned in dance floor building, they're probably not going to do it, exactly correct. So
Mm-hmm.
we had some issues with our flooring at first, and that was kind of hard and a little heartbreaking, but fortunately, Jason, my husband, is a great problem solver, and we were able to get that pretty, fixed up pretty quick. And, you get it as a business owner, you get emotional, right? Like this is your business, it's your heart, and
Yeah.
you get emotional. I'm very lucky to have Jason, who's just a very logical, you know, very calm, settled individual to where like whenever we hit a problem, it's just roadmap to solution, right? Like
Yeah.
we don't need to overthink it. We don't need to, let's just create the situation and the path for that. We did have some issues where people we trusted, ran with our trust. And that was pretty hard because when you're opening a business, like I said, you have personal board of directors. And if
Yeah.
those people, run with your ideas or try to say things about you that are inaccurate, it can kind of create some emotional, hardships.
Sure.
But at the same time, you just put your head down and you keep working, right? Like
Right.
as long as you know your purpose, as long as you know what you're here to do, why you're here to do it, and that you know that you wouldn't be here if it wasn't supposed to happen, right?
Sure.
And so that's really kind of just how I've always led. Like even in graduate school's hard, right? That's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done.
No.
And I would always just imagine myself with my head down punching through the leaves, right?
Yeah.
Just to get through to the next level. And that's kind of what this is. Like put your head down and punch yourself through the leaves. Um, but for situations like staff leaving, we had to, restaff a little bit
Sure.
and refocus. Like, okay, where did we go wrong? on that one, learn from the lesson so that we make sure not to ever do that again, right? Same thing with general contractors. I mean, it's just you have to be careful with the people you bring into your business. And then anytime you do hit a hardship, try to remove yourself from it so that you can see where the gaps were so that you don't do it again.
Yeah.
Um, and then, the biggest one is always for, I think, any entrepreneur is getting customers, right? You have this grandiose business
Oh,
plan and you're
that
like,
thing.
yeah. And you're like, I'm going to have this many dancers by this point. And you're like, oh, okay. So that was a little off. And figuring out, okay, what do I have to do? And so, I called TJ. Hey, I need Facebook marketing. I need somebody who's on it.
Yeah.
Again, assessing the situation. What did you miss? Figure it out and proceed.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we got through each of those hardships. And we're still kind of going through it. I mean, I don't think I'll ever, not that customers are a number, but you constantly want to be inviting new
You still have
friends
to
into
know
your
them.
business.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You still got to
Yeah.
be aware of, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so we want more people and, substitutes are always, not fun but we do have now, we have a clear culture. So
Yeah.
our staff has been pretty reliable. We have had the same teachers pretty much year to year. And we learned from that experience, and I think it's been pretty great from then on.
Yeah. No, and I think that you're dropping nuggets and I like it. So kind of, looking at those, but I think a couple of things that you said. Number one, keeping your head down and moving forward and knowing regardless of obstacles where you're still headed. You're not lost in the dark. You didn't forget your direction. Like it was just an obstacle, which we either have to just
Yep.
drive through it or hop over it or go around it or whatever the situation is. Another thing you said about just kind of staff and people. I've always been told kind of two different statements that have always stuck with me. That number one, the only people who can talk behind your back are the people who are behind you. That's number one.
Yep.
And number two is I love that, and I don't even know if it's true or not. I'm sure it is, but I've heard it for the longest time, is that P.T. Barnum was quoted when they asked him, they were like, what do you think about people talking about you behind your back or people writing articles about you and your circus and your business? And he said, I don't care what they say, just spell my name right. Like that was, he was, big on getting press and things like that, and I know it's, you're not necessarily like, well, obviously you're not trying to make headlines by making these, whatever, but at the end of the day, like those things, the spirit behind that is what I like about what he said. He's like,
Yeah.
look, I don't care what they're saying. Like, just, if you're going to write about me, at least spell my name right, give me that free
Yep.
marketing and that free advertising. But no, those are the challenges that you're going to face. I don't care what they look like. You're going to face them. I don't care if it's money or if it's students or it's staff or it's software. It could be all these different things. It's
Yep.
really anything. You're going to face them. And it's how, and I said this, I think in every episode at this point, it's how we react that makes the difference. If we react of like, let me go sit in a corner. And I even said in the first one, I think it's okay and very human of us to have that initial pity party and maybe a little bit of
Yep.
frustration, a little bit of anger, a little bit of sad, a little bit of like, what in the crap am I going to do? But then it's momentary. It has to be momentary. Like we have to be able to jump back and go, okay, now how do I tackle it? And sometimes, again, we can't take the complete credit. Sometimes it is our people who are closest to us that help us get past it and overcome it. But at the end of the day, it's that we moved past it and we learned something from it. I'm fully convinced that there are no real failures. There's only lessons, is that you learn something from every single situation you go through and you keep pushing forward. And that's exactly what you said.
Yeah. And one of the things is, and we teach this to our dancers too. This is why it's great to be in an activity or a dance class.
Yeah.
Anytime you hit a disappointment, you're going to have those human feelings. You're going to be sad. You're going to be angry. You're going to want to throw things. You're going to want to get on social media. Have your safe people. This is again where your personal board of directors is an asset. But also too, as I tell my dancers, you get 30 minutes. You get 30 minutes. Go sit in a corner, scream in a pillow, cry to your mom. You get 30 minutes.
Yeah.
After that 30 minutes, you're going to dry your tears. You're going to pick your shoulders up. You're going to look straight forward and you're going to smile. Even though it's fake, you're going to smile and you're going to keep on walking.
Yeah.
30 minutes. That's all you get.
Yeah.
So, and that's how that's how you have to be as an entrepreneur too. Now, sometimes it's a little bit more than 30 minutes because it hits harder.
Our smile
right?
is more like,
Right. Yeah. I mean,
You have
right?
to hold it there. You're
But
like,
yeah, hey, and it might have to be somebody else holding it there, right? Like that sometimes it has to be.
yeah,
But
for
and
sure.
I will have to say, like, I had people holding me up. I still to
Yeah,
this day, I can't give I do not have sole ownership in our business.
yeah,
Of course, Jason and I own it together.
sure,
And it would not be as, what it is without him, but then we
sure.
also have the people who support it. Like, and that's who makes up our business, right?
Right.
So
What does that
yeah.
look like? And I usually go a different direction, but because you've talked about Jason a few times, is like, and we've kind of walked through it. And I know that you guys are still doing, one of the next questions I like to ask is just kind of how some of your, as you continue to grow, what really changed with your kind of plan or strategy. And I just know you guys well enough though that, I mean, some things may have changed, but a lot of the things that you guys were doing, like the dance intensives and things like that, y'all are still doing them to this day. Like they proved successful and fruitful in the past. And so y'all continue to do them now. And you can touch on that a little bit if you want, but I'd like for you to just briefly, I know some people don't have this. So I'd like for you to, what is it like having, and I know Jason's not, you know, he is, but he isn't. He may not be there every single moment of every single day, but I do know that he's super involved. And I've had conversations with him, where he's had, ideas and thoughts. And, it's clear and apparent that you have, someone that is supportive and that has your back and is a sounding board and a voice of reason and all of the things. What is that? What do you think that means? I know there's definitely entrepreneurs and business owners out there that probably don't have that. They either don't have a spouse, period, or they just don't have one that either supports them or backs them or provides any advice and input. Like, just, I guess, talk on that a little bit, like how important and crucial that's been for you guys.
Well, so when we started writing the business plan, I started writing it. And he read it, and within about 2 sentences, he was like, "This is way too fluffy." And I'm like, "Well, I'm an artist,
I was gonna say it's artistic.
so like
It makes
he's
sense to
like
me.
that people are not going to want to see this." So we are very blessed that I have my art side and his, building business side, right?
Yeah,
So it really started with we would, because again, during COVID, I keep bringing that up. We would take walks a lot, and he would just ask me questions about the business
yeah,
and like, what do you see? What do you want? What do you want? And I honestly feel like every relationship should go through that. Like it was almost kind of counseling for us. Not
yeah.
that, we needed it, but it was amazing because
We
he
all
wrote
need
this
it
beautiful,
to a certain degree.
he,
We all need those
yeah,
conversations.
yes. He wrote this beautiful business plan based on all of those conversations and those walks. And for me, it was like he put my heart and soul with his logic and reasoning
Yeah,
into this business that was like, okay, this is the two of us, this is
yeah.
us. And it was really kind of wonderful. We do have moments where it's like stay in your lane moments, right?
Oh,
Like,
for sure.
yeah, no. But it's been really great as far as like I'll come up with an idea and he'll be like, okay, what's your ROI on this? Where are we going to get the customers from? How are we going to do this? He's also really great at creating because he is outside of the industry.
Yeah,
And you've probably been witness to this. He's really great at creating wild hair ideas.
yeah.
Like,
Which I know one
what if
appreciates
we
more
did
than
this?
I do.
Yeah. He's the one that's going to be like, what if we do this? And he throws me this like random idea.
So hear
And
me out. We get a petting zoo, and then
yes, yeah. And 80% of the time, I'm like, no. But a lot
that's a
of
stay in your
times,
lane moment.
yes, a lot of times I'm like, that's actually kind of a good idea. Go figure that out a little bit more.
Yeah,
Um, he's got one, and I'm not going to say it, but it's a little bit of a teaser. He's got one idea that he has up. And we're kind of just like, it's stirring in his brain and he's really wanting to do it. But I'm like, okay, it has to make sense. So, and we do that for each other. It's not just
yeah,
me saying that to him. In fact, he says that to me more often. Like, let it make sense. It needs to make sense.
yeah.
Um, he definitely has a better understanding financially than I do because I'm an artist.
Sure.
So, he definitely helps. We're kind of here going, I'm going to go crazy and pull us back, and I'm going to go crazy and then pull us back. So we kind of find our way in that center lane
Yeah,
of, knowing our purpose. We're also good at questioning each other. Like, is that really part of who you are? Is that part of your purpose? Does that
Sure.
have anything to do? I like shiny items. So anytime I see something shiny, he's like, bring it down. And that's kind of how it works. And I will say it's a benefit for us. I have talked to other people that are like, oh, I could never work with my
Yeah.
spouse. I could never do that with so and so. But I also think it takes an open heart of going, okay, I love you, but I don't love this idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and being okay with um, slight disapprovals every once in a while.
Sure. Understanding constructive criticism. And I think as long as you
Yeah.
walk into it that way, Laura and I have had to get used to each other's, she's understands that I am that visionary idea, shiny object. Like I'm that person as well. And she is also like, she thinks of ideas and plans, but she's definitely one that learning to understand. You read like the love languages and all those things, but it's a little bit different. But understanding who each person is and kind of
Right.
where they reason from and where the
Yeah.
thoughts come from. And I'm one that my initial reaction is like, so what do you think of this idea? And the moment that anyone would be like, whatever, oh, but let me explain it further to you. Maybe you don't understand it. No, I understand it. I just don't like it.
Yep.
And I don't
Yep.
like it and listening through the reasoning of this is why I don't like it. And it's not a terrible idea, or maybe it's just you're thinking of it this way, but you're not looking at it that way. And
Yes.
making the decision from day one, specifically with spouse, business partner, whatever, from day one of I'm going to hear them out and I'm going to
Yep.
hear what they have to say. And I'm going to try to see it from there goes my lens word again, but I'm going to try to see it from their perspective and understand
Yep.
why they're saying it or why they would or wouldn't agree with what I'm saying.
Right.
And I think as long as you do that, and again, have a lot of grace and a lot of patience and a lot of understanding, and just know that at the end of the day, you both have great intentions, and I don't care.
Yes.
This could be a spouse or a business partner. Like well, maybe not all business partners have, best intentions, but be very careful there. That's a whole nother episode. But just being aware that specifically someone that is that close to you, like a spouse,
Yeah.
is that they have not only your best interest, but theirs and the families and the business
Yes.
at the end of the day. Like it's not a personal attack on anyone's
Right.
ideas or things. It never is.
Well, and one of the things with him too, and I'll try to make this quick, is what's great about
No,
him is there's in the dance industry, it's very female centered, and
sure.
being a boy mom of two moms and being the only girl in my family, I wanted to make sure we created an environment that was welcoming to everybody.
Yeah.
So boys, boy dancers, dads, we wanted dads to be able to walk into the studio and feel just as welcome as the moms do.
Yeah.
So he definitely provides a very masculine and warm presence to the studio. So that, I mean, I've seen dads walk in and they have conversations about different, building, all that you know the man talk,
Yeah.
right? Like
I know what you're
it's
talking
just
about.
really great to see, like having, because sometimes moms take over the dance world, right?
Sure.
Like I'm going to go take my daughter to dance. Well, we want to see dads too, and dads want to be part of their dancers
Yeah.
world as well. So we want them to feel welcome. And I feel like Jason definitely helps when he's there. It's definitely very much a fatherly presence, a warm,
Sure.
masculine, welcome presence where, everybody who's anybody can walk in there and feel comfortable. And I think that was kind of important to us because in our mission statement, it says we want to provide a welcoming and encouraging environment to everybody,
Yeah.
not just Sally and Sally's mom. We want to
Yeah.
make sure dads are welcome, brothers are welcome, all that kind of stuff. So, and he's definitely the one who helps provide that.
Yeah. No, and it's apparent too. Anytime I've been in there, I mean, there's just from parents to kiddos, things like they know who he is, and they go up and they talk to him. It's not like why is he here? Like it's
Nope.
and typically he's in the gear too, like he's branded out
Yep.
too or whatever. So it's cool to see. So what, kind of, I guess, wrapping up now, I mean, and I've got a couple of final questions for you, but I mean, what is what's next for you guys? And, and that doesn't, I don't necessarily mean like we're opening 5 more locations. Like, just what is next? Like, what are y'all trying to do? Is there anything new that y'all are trying to integrate? I mean, obviously, without giving away any, secrets or things that are still in the works. You mentioned Jason's working on something that he needs to text me about. Jason, did you hear me? But what's kind of next for y'all? What's on the horizon? Some things that y'all are working on or that y'all are looking at for, 2024?
Right. So, um, honestly, I've really enjoyed the wash, rinse, and repeat for a year or two.
Yeah.
Like just getting the systems, right? So any business, you'll learn about your systems and you have to have good systems. So
Yep.
I've really enjoyed that. We are working on right now a little bit about daytime adult classes.
That's cool.
We want to get our older adults up and moving and kind of possibly bring them into the studio during the day and have some really fun adult classes. Um, Ballet and tap. We already have adult hip hop classes that the moms kind of enjoy in the evening, but we want to do that. Um, uh, growth. We just want to see some growth. We want to bring more dancers in. We want to, I grew up loving dance, right? So I just want to make sure that I feel like everyone in our community should experience dance the way I experienced it because
Yeah.
man, I had a really great dance experience growing up. I have a great dance mom. And I just want to keep educating the moms. Our teachers, our ballet teachers, are being trained in Jacquetti. So, for people who don't know what that is, that's a special form, a ballet method. That what I've noticed is parents don't know a lot. So they'll spend a lot of money for their
Sure.
dancers to go learn something, and they think that they're learning what's right. And in dance, it can seem very gray. There's not a lot of black and white.
Yeah.
And so these parents invest a lot of money and then they come out and it's like, well, did they learn if they went to another, like say they had to move to a different state
Yeah.
and go to a different studio, would they have the knowledge that they need to go to that studio? And I think what I want to make sure is we educate our parents. And with the Jacquetti method, that is an international method of dance where dancers get tested and you can be assured that your dancer is learning, the right things,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And it's not based on my teachers, right? Like they go get tested by somebody else.
Oh,
So our
okay. That's
teachers are
cool.
being held accountable, right? Like having our teachers held accountable, all that kind of stuff. So we're really pushing that. We really just want to keep working with our, local drill teams, providing their dancers with education. I'm very big on healthy dancing.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure our drill teams, those dancers are provided with a knowledge so that they can execute and not hurt themselves.
Yeah.
So that's a big mission for me is making sure anybody who's dancing has a healthy body when they're an adult. What
Yeah.
we don't realize is like we are breaking, these kiddos' bodies, or we could be
Yeah.
in their 20s. So we got to look ahead and kind of see what kind of body are we giving them when they're in their 20s and 30s. You
Yeah.
said earlier, like I go to sleep and I wake up hurting, right? Like
Big
that's
facts.
kind of my goal is to make sure these kids and they're,
Yeah.
we're in our 30s, right?
Yeah.
These
Close.
kids,
No
these
comment.
kids, these kids in their 30s still have healthy moving bodies.
Yeah. No, for
Um,
sure.
and that's kind of where I'm headed at. We use our younger programs. We're using Acrodance, Discover Dance for our younger teachers so that they're held accountable.
Yeah.
It's really about a time of accountability because I want our parents to feel assured that their kids are learning what we say we're teaching them. That's
Yeah.
the biggest thing for me.
For sure. If they're investing, in their kiddo, regardless of what they want the end outcome to be, not every kid's planning
Yeah.
on going to college and dancing or
No.
drill team, but they're,
No.
regardless of what they're investing in, if it's just an activity, flexibility and, a team environment, like all these things, they should know that what they're investing in is what they're getting. And so that
Yes.
you're preparing for those already and then implementing even further, like that's cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Here's the question of the hour, and this is like the one I always like to close with. And sometimes it's our best snippet, and sometimes there's you dropped a ton of good gold here. But if you had just looking over your experience, if you had one piece of advice for an entrepreneur or a fellow business leader that is stuck, trying to get started, trying to grow, regardless of maybe what that their journey looks like, what would that one piece of advice be?
If you're stuck, well,
And it doesn't have
you
to be
just
stuck.
have to,
You don't have to be stuck either. Like if you
no,
just had a general piece of advice, like
general
if you
piece
want
of
to go with
advice.
stuck, you can
Oh,
go with stuck, but just whatever comes to your head.
well, I will have to say my biggest piece of advice is to do the work.
Mm,
Have a great attorney, that you can call, because you will need them.
yeah.
You will. It's inevitable. Every business needs them. But do the work. When you don't do the work, you have an unsteady foundation, which doesn't allow you for a very good business. So do the work. Um, put your head down. Consider all of the things. Create a solid business plan, and know that that business plan is probably not going to be what actually happens. So you're basically writing a fiction novel, and to better understand what you hope to see outcome. But do the work. Um, and just take it one step at a time. You're not going to get it all done in a day. Take it one step at a time. I think the only reason why I am here where I am today is because I had somebody tell me to take a deep breath and take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Like, what do you need to do next? What
Hmm.
what happens next? And that's all you got to focus on.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I think that is a great episode 3, and we've gone about an hour, which is awesome. Like I told you, there's really no
Wow.
like I don't set time limits on these. I want them to go exactly. We did exactly what was supposed to happen. That's what I told you from the beginning. I was like, it's going to
Woohoo!
go and end exactly where
Jazz
it ends.
hands.
But I think that sorry. But I think that you dropped a lot of good information, a lot of good knowledge. And I just want to say thank you for being on. Thanks for taking some time out of your day. I know we're all busy and have a million things going on between life and business and kiddos and all that fun stuff. And I just appreciate you being on. So thank you for coming
Of
on, and thank you
course.
for dropping some hot knowledge on the
Oh,
audience. And yeah,
I
so thanks
love
for coming
talking
on.
about my
Appreciate it.
business.
It's a
That's
lot of
called
fun.
being a
I
business
think we
owner.
all do. Even we love the, and I wouldn't say all of us, but I would say I know I do. I know you do because we talk enough. But I enjoy being able to share from beginning to end, the good, the bad, the ugly, the struggle. That's why I started the podcast, because I like also hearing from other people. Like I can learn from that and try to
Yeah,
not go down that road, or realize that I'm in the same boat, and then try to glean something from that other person and go, oh my gosh, you may have just saved me heartache, or I'm already in the middle of heartache and you just helped me know that it's going to be okay. And I'm
right.
going to be all right. And I have to think about just what's next, go get it done and move on.
Yeah, it's like the
And I just
song, You Are
appreciate it.
Not Alone. Yeah,
You are
you're
not.
not
There's
alone.
plenty of us out there
You're not
every single day.
alone.
Jen, I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day. And again, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
You got it.